Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you who are joining us for this webinar series. Thanks for joining us and welcome to this webinar called Step by Step, the Higg FEM Verification Trail. Today, we will deep dive into section 3, which is on energy and GHG. We from Leadership and Sustainability are looking forward to spending the next 1 hour with all of you. And this is the second in the series of the webinar where we will take you in depth through the different sections in the Higg FEM environmental module. Please let me introduce you to our organization, which is Leadership and Sustainability, spearheaded by our CEO, Ms. Karen Eggberg. She has had a long experience in the sustainability area in different organizations before establishing Leadership and Sustainability. We are now more than 6 years old. We have been completing different projects on environmental improvements in the apparel and the footwear sector. We very much look forward to spending some time with all of you today, discussing aspects of supply chain management, specifically with regard to energy and GHG. And a bit about myself before we go on. I'm a textile technologist with over 20 years of experience in the textile safety and in consulting domain. I'm a lead auditor for 14001 and 45001. In the markets here, I have been a Climate Action Plan 2.0 assessor, as well as a Sustainability Awards assessor with the CII. I'm currently a member also of the ZDHC Academy Steering Committee. And with Leadership and Sustainability, I have been working in the capacity of a Higg FEM verifier, a trainer, a BPI consultant, a ZDHC trainer, and a BRM verifier. And as we go on, I just want to introduce you to the Zoom panel through which we will all be interacting. Just some basics about Zoom so that all of the questions that are there are coming in through the question and answer panel. You will also be able to chat with us through the chat function. This is just, in case you would want to give some kind of feedback regarding voice quality or something of that kind, then you can use the chat panel. But otherwise, I would request that all of your questions are coming in through the question and answer panel that you will see on the bottom row in your webinar page. And in case any of the questions have not been answered, I will ensure that a mail is being sent and that you will be able to answer the question. So in a follow-up email, we will also be providing you with a link to this recording, and you will be able to download the presentation as well. So anything on the slides, you need not note down. If there is anything else, you can definitely note this down. So before we go into our section, let me just tell you that all of this material is copyrighted with the Sustainable Apparel Coalition and with Leadership and Sustainability. Please refrain from distributing it externally. You can use it for your own use. Let's take a look at the agenda for today. We will cover the verification trail, its purpose. We will cover the quantitative data management aspect, which is very important when with regard to all of the data that we manage, both in all of the sections in Higg FEM. In section 3, we will cover in depth the energy and GHG section. We will have some questions and discussions as well. We will cover benchmarking, which is important to understand so that we understand where, with regard to other organizations of a similar category, do we stand as a facility. And we will also be giving you our FEM training and verification offer, and a bit about the team that's involved in Leadership and Sustainability. So coming on to the verification trail and its purpose. So the purpose of the verification trail is to give you a better and deeper understanding of all of the different sections in the Higg FEM. We will take you through all of the sections one by one so that you are acquainted with all of the requirements therein. You would also have a better understanding of the FEM and its meaning for your specific facility. And this is the verification process flow that we would like to share. These are the steps involved in the verification. So firstly, you would require to complete your self-assessment in the Higg FEM platform. The second stage is where you would want to engage with the verifier once you have decided to go ahead with the verification. So here you would require to provide information on what is the type of factory, how many number of employees do you have, what is the, do you use chemicals in production, what is, whether you have wastewater treatment, what's the actual location of your facility, etc. All of this information would be required to be provided to the verifying body, and then they would be in a position to give you a proposal. You would then require to make the self-assessment available to the verifier. The verifier requires to review the documents and inform you about any of the issues that are there beforehand. He or she would send out the agenda ahead of the on-site visit or the off-site verification, whichever is happening, so that you are aware as to who are the team members from within of the facility that you would require to involve. You can have two types of verifications. One is an on-site verification and one is an off-site verification. So on the on-site verification, if you are, let's say, reporting on a sustainability, making a sustainability report for your organization, or let's say reporting on your website publicly, all of these different types of modes, you will be then able to report your Higg FEM scores, and you can inform all of your stakeholders of the results. But if it is an off-site verification, then you can definitely share it with all of your brands and your immediate stakeholders, but you cannot report it publicly. So that's the difference between the on-site and off-site verification. And coming to the reporting, finally, after the verification is over, the verifier would submit the module on the platform. As the facility, you would require to review this information, whatever is available, and then post the results. And once you post and finalize the result, you will be able to share it with your stakeholders, the verified module. So this is the entire process flow for the verification that will happen. I have a question here from one of the attendees. If a facility would like to have a Higg verified in this year, but they are not ready to complete the questionnaire by March, normally can a facility purchase a module after 31st March? Yes, of course, you can purchase the module right through the year. It is the 30th of April, which is taken, which is the date that is taken for benchmarking. So you can actually purchase the module also after that. The only issue is that you will not be able to post and unpost your module. But till the 30th of April, you can post and unpost also your module. After the 30th of April, your module is then taken for benchmarking, and then you will not be able to make any changes in that. If you want to make changes, you are the owner of the data. If you want to make changes, you can request the verifier and confirm with him that this is your accurate data, and he or she will make the change for you on the platform. Okay, just some general advice before we go on with the webinar on completing the Higg FEM. Please appoint one person who will be responsible for the entire module. The person should have read the How to Higg guide, which is there. This is a long guide, but it is a wealth of information when you want to actually complete the FEM. You would require to have the verification preparation guidance also to be understood, so that you know what exactly has to be uploaded for what question. How is the verifier going to be verifying the details? What is it that you would require to keep and show to the verifier when he is coming to the facility? Of course, you would require to respond accurately to all of the questions. The documentation is very important in the FEM. SAC has given a lot of stress on the documentation that is required to confirm a particular answer as a yes on the platform. You would also require to have all of your targets, your baselines. Please be aware of the time that would be required. Please keep at least a minimum of 4 weeks time to complete your Higg FEM, because you might have all of the data, but you would require to re-verify everything before it is then finally uploaded. And the ultimate goal for the verification is the fact that you are able to improve year on year. Before we continue with the energy section, we will now take a look at one of the important aspects of your entire reporting for the Higg FEM. And this is basically your quantitative data management. So your insight on your sustainability aspects is only as good as the quality of the data that you have made available. Hence, it's important that we maintain the quality of the data that's collected and reported on the sustainability platform. And ideally, like many of the facilities would be reporting on different sustainability platforms, try and ensure that you are having a harmonized reporting with the same values being reported on all of the platforms. So here we have given 5 different sections in which you will be looking at your quantitative data management. The first one being data collection. So the verifiers are expected to review all aspects of the facilities tracking program that could produce inaccuracies. So this would include all of your data sources, whether you're collecting your data from on-site meters, whether you're collecting your data from invoices. What are some of the processes and tools that are used to aggregate your data? Perhaps you have online monitoring systems, perhaps you maintain Excel sheets where with calculations wherein you're going to be talking about the data. If again there are any type of inaccuracies, errors, etc., which are noted, then this information is then corrected on the platform before the verification is completed. And also we have to be a bit careful about the 1000 factor. For example, if you're converting the waste data from kilogram to tons, if you are looking at platform data, when we are doing different calculations, when we are doing baselining, when we are doing normalizations, etc., we have to be very mindful of what are the conversions, how are we converting them, and whether it is uniform and appropriate. Then another aspect that we would like to talk about is also, please try and collect all of the data year by year into one single spreadsheet with different tabs. So you can have one for energy, one for water, one for waste, and you can keep a dashboard which gives you an overall view of all of your data. This will definitely help you, because otherwise we have seen that during verifications we go from spreadsheet to spreadsheet, and sometimes there is a lot of confusion which happens. So if this is all maintained in one single spreadsheet with based on what you are reporting on the platform, it will help you immensely when you are progressing in your FEM year on year. Make sure all of your data is compared with your original sources. It could be invoices, it could be metering logs. Perhaps there is one person who is taking in a log and then verifying this data, or then performing a due diligence of this data. It's a good practice to have an internal verification which is done of all the data that you are reporting. So this can perhaps be a part of your environmental management system, that once in a quarter or once in a month, there is a data verification which happens, which talks about whether a person has actually verified that it is the data that's there on the invoices that is actually taken up and into your final spreadsheet. And also finally ask the plausibility test, that is, does this number make sense? So if you see a large increase in a particular month, or if you see a large decrease in a particular month, we should then question ourselves as to why there has been an increase or a decrease, and how you would be able to optimize it. So normalizing, again, is the second part of the quantitative data management, which is important. So in Higg FEM, you can have your baselines as absolute baselines, or you can have them also as normalized baselines. So as an absolute baseline, you will be reporting the exact figure. For example, here 1.5 million kilowatt hour per year, which is the actual value for that entire year. Or it could be even normalized to a variable metric that you want to choose. So in this case, if you want to normalize it, you could perhaps say it is 0.15 kilowatt hour per unit of production. So normalization is generally recommended for production dependent indicators, as this provides for a better year-on-year comparison of the data, so that you will not have any kind of surprises, especially like if there have been shutdowns, if there have been a sudden increase in production for a particular year because of extra orders which have come in, etc. This will not affect your targets much if you have normalized data. And again, a small note to try and keep all of your calculations in the same table, that is in one single spreadsheet. And here's an example of a normalized baseline. You would require to measure the total energy used in a given period of time, that is kilowatt hour per year or meter cubed of diesel. For example, if you're looking at diesel per year, choose the variable with which you would like to normalize this particular data. It could be garments, it could be the square meters of fabric that you produce in a particular year. It could be the number of employees that you have, especially when it is water data that you would like to choose. So in this example, we have taken energy. So it is 1 million kilowatt hour divided by the production volume for that particular period, and that will give you your normalized figure, which you would require to maintain. The third part of quantitative data management is setting of targets. And here success is basically the result of extensive work which is involved in your tracking and setting of targets, and the improvement plans that you will make within your facility, and the implementations that you will finally do to meet your targets. So here you will be able to demonstrate impact reduction by creating a good action plan. And it's an opportunity to report quantifiable improvements that are made in the FEM reporting year. For example, in 2022, how much have you been able to bring down your entire energy consumption is something that you will be able to set a target for and report. And here are some examples that we would like to share with you. You can see here for energy, what is the result in 2022? What is the goal that's taken? What's the result for 2023? And again, what's a goal for 2024 that you will take? So you can do this for all of your impact areas, energy, water, waste. So the questions in energy, water, waste are framed or flow similarly in the Higg FEM questionnaire. So you will see that also as you go through all of the questions. You would require first to do the tracking, then the baselining, then you would require to show the improvements, and finally you will be asked level 3 questions which are above and beyond. So for all of these sections, the energy, water, and waste, try and follow or set examples or set targets such that you are able to maximize whatever are the actual impacts that you are doing in each of the sections. Developing action plans. Develop an action plan with targets and assigned responsibilities, a time frame for the action. And here you will find a template. We have given a link to the template that's there on the Higg platform. So this site has a lot of templates there. You would require to scroll down to the section where this action plan template is available. And here are some examples of how you would be able to take targets, actions, and expected reduction. What is the reduction that you can have in that particular impact area? If there is an investment, what is the investment that is required? What is the completion date that you are looking to complete this particular aspect in? And who is from within the facility is responsible? So this is your quantitative data that you would require to maintain as an action plan. And this is an action plan document that you should have, and it should be a living document, all of these documents that you maintain, so that it is updated on a regular basis with each of your MRMs. And some of the main aspects to check would be completeness, accuracy, consistency, transparency, and data quality management. Please remember to keep all of the data consistent, from the measurements to baselining to target setting to also all of your follow-up. And keep the units consistent, compare it with your baselines and actual targets that you will take. And now it's time to continue on with the trail. Having understood a bit about the quantitative data management, this was important to talk about before we talk about some of the other sections. And here you can see an overview of all the sections that are included in the FEM module. We already went through the sections in 1 and 2, that is the facility information and permits and environmental management system, in our last webinar. And today we will move on to section 3, which is on energy and GHG. So the importance of energy optimization basically is for your cost savings, for your environmental benefits, for your compliances, for your operational efficiency within the facility, for your reputation as an organization. And overall, your energy optimization would be an important consideration for all the manufacturing facilities that want to reduce costs, improve efficiency, and operate in a sustainable and in a responsible manner. So according to the Higg guide, you would require to basically track all of the energy and fuel sources, identify factors which are contributing most to the energy use on site, and you can set absolute or normalized baselines for energy use, set absolute or normalized targets for energy reduction. You should ideally have an action plan, and you should be able to demonstrate energy reductions against whatever is the baseline that you have set. And I can see a question here. Yes, of course, you would be getting email. So all those who are registered will be getting a copy of the recording and also of the presentation. So let's see the scope 1 emissions that your facility is going to generate. Scope 1 emissions are all of your direct greenhouse gas emissions that occur from sources that are controlled or owned by the organization. So for example, all of the emissions associated with your fuel combustions in your boilers, furnaces, your vehicles which are owned by the facility, etc. All of that will be considered under scope 1 emissions. And here you see an overview of the potential energy sources that are owned or controlled by the facility. All of these sources would require to be tracked. And here you have to make sure that you measure your energy sources accurately. And we have also provided here a link to the GHG protocol that gives you further guidance. And all of these are your scope 1 emissions. Scope 2 emissions are all of your indirect GHG emissions associated with the purchase of electricity, steam, heat, or cooling. And next to your own generated energy sources, there are also the options where you can purchase, like for example, it might make sense for you as a facility to purchase steam from another organization or chilled water from another facility. So all of this will come under your scope 2 emissions. And some of the common machines and equipment that is there on site as we are operating different processes are your boilers, your compressed air systems, motors. You would require to have the information on what is the energy consumption with each of these different equipment in order for you to be tracking the energy within your organization. So essentially, there are three broad scopes: your scope 1, which is all of your direct GHG emissions; your scope 2, which is all of your indirect GHG emissions; and scope 3, which are the other indirect emissions. So the Higg FEM tool will provide a GHG calculation for both your scope 1 and scope 2 emissions on the platform. So once you report the whatever is the electricity that has been used by the facility, you will then be able to report what is your or you will be able to see on the platform as to what are your GHG emissions under scope 1 and 2. So here you see also all of the other scopes. There are 7 different gases, GHG emission gases, which will be required to be reported on. Say any of your operations generate these gases, you would require to report on that, and you can see the different sections which will generate these scopes. Coming to the energy module, you will have level 1, 2, and level 3 questions. You have tracking energy sources in your level 1. You have your baselines, your targets, your improvements plans, and your demonstrated improvements in level 2. And in level 3, you will have your scope 3 emissions or science-based targets with questions. So your level 3 are those questions which are going above and beyond any type of compliance requirements. Your level 2 questions are all of your baselinings, your what are your energy intensive processes, what are your energy targets that you are taking. In the energy section, I would like to also mention that it is level 1 and level 2 which is currently scored. Level 3 is not scored also for the 2022 module. Okay, let me just take a look at some more questions which have come in. We are a sterling silver chains and jewelry manufacturing and exporting company. Our production depends on the designs and styles of the jewelry articles. There are hundreds of styles in production, no uniformity, which affects energy use depending upon the orders received from our overseas customers. So yes, Mr. Khanna. So what my suggestion then would be that you look at trying to look at your production in the form of SAM, which is standard allowed minutes, which gives you a variability factor which you will be able to choose for each of the product that you are manufacturing. So this should take in the variability of the production. So if you are reporting directly on maybe the number of products that you have shipped, you might not be in a position to normalize your data appropriately. But if not, if you're using SAM, you would then be in a position to do so. Okay, there is another question here. Help for complete mechanical process, what type of emission will it impact, or is it out of scope 1 and 2? So your scope 1 are all of your direct emissions, Mr. Jha, and scope 2 would be all of your indirect emissions. So if you are having mechanical processes, these are a part of the manufacturing activities. These will all be considered as your scope 1 emissions. And that is what you would require to report. Upstream and downstream manufacturing activities. Yes, there are a total of, if you're looking at scope 3 emissions, you will have both upstream and downstream manufacturing activities, which would require to be looked into. Again, it will depend on what you are looking to report. So upstream activities are all of the activities that happen before the manufacture, that is the raw material procurement, the vehicles coming in, bringing in the raw materials, all of that will be your upstream activities. Downstream activities where are all of the activities which are after the production has happened, when you are shipping your production to the different areas where you have to deliver the goods. So those would be all of your downstream manufacturing, downstream activities. Okay, there is one more question here. If you're looking at measuring scope 3 emissions, how would you start to look at that? So we have explained that in the scope 3 emissions, and there is also a question which is coming up. I will try and explain a little more there. And let's proceed with our presentation. So the first question that is there in level 1 is on tracking of your energy sources. And this is what would be required. Does your facility track its energy use from the source? And what is the quantity of energy that has been used by the source during the reporting year? You would require to have the unit of measure. What is the method that has been used to track this energy source? What was the frequency of the measurement? And if you want to provide any kind of additional comments, you can also provide those comments. So the following principles should be applied when you are reporting on any data. That is completeness. So the tracking and the reporting program should include all of the relevant sources as listed in the Higg FEM. Sources should not be excluded from data tracking and reporting. And it should also be based on materiality. When you're talking about accuracy, here you have to ensure that the data input into the energy tracking program is accurate. It is derived from a credible source. It could be calibrated meters. It could be established scientific measuring principles or engineering estimates, etc. Consistency, here we have to be consistent if we are looking at reporting from a particular meter reading. We have to ensure that it is the same meter reading that is being followed right throughout that entire year's data reporting. You will then be able to compare the changes that happen over time. There should be transparency, that is all of the data sources, for example, energy bills, meter readings, whatever are your assumptions that you are making. If you are using an estimation technique for your data reporting, all of this should be very clear, and it should be explained when you are talking to the verifier, so that it can be looked at in detail. And finally, data quality management. That is, quality assurance activities should be defined in your program, in your environmental management system, ideally, so that you are having a due diligence of whatever is the data that you are tracking. And all of these principles are adapted from the GHG protocol. And this is a new question that is there in the 2022 module. And this is, does your facility purchase energy attribute certificates? So the question here is, what type of energy attribute certificate does your facility purchase? How much megawatt hour did your facility purchase and retire in the reporting year? And please upload your certificate. So the intent of this question is for companies to demonstrate that they have purchased energy attribute certificates to support whatever are the actions that have been taken to utilize renewable energy as a part of their operations. So you can say a yes or a no to this question, and your company must have actually retired the EACs for the reporting year, or the EACs have been retired on your behalf for your facility for the reporting year. So when the EACs are purchased separately and are not already bundled with your purchased renewables at the facility through your PPA agreement, etc., that is when you will be able to report it. You should have the total amount of purchased electricity. Let's take an example here. So let's say you have a total amount of purchased electricity as 100,000 kilowatt hour. You have the total amount of RECs that are purchased to be 40 megawatt hour. Then if you convert the 40 megawatt hour into kilowatt hour, it will be 40,000 kilowatt hour. So you will report the purchased electricity as 100,000 minus the 40,000, that is 60,000 kilowatt hour is what you will report as purchased electricity. And the purchased renewables, then you will be able to report as 40,000 kilowatt hour. And for your calculations in the FEM, the total overall electricity used is what is going to be considered for your GHG calculation. So this is where reporting the RECs correctly is important. And I can see some more questions. Let me just address them. What type of documents are required for data validation for scope 1 emissions? So for documents in terms of collection of data, it will be perhaps if you are purchasing electricity, then you will require to have all of your invoices which are there. If you're buying diesel for your generator, you would require to again have what are the invoices that you have for your generator. You will have to maintain this information in an Excel sheet in order to show that this is the consumption that you have made in a particular year. Okay, coming to data quality checks, there are some do's and don'ts that are there, which we would like to reiterate. You would require to review all of the source data, that from where exactly are you sourcing the data. Perhaps you have online monitoring system, perhaps you have invoices, perhaps you have logs. So you would require to review that, compare the current year with the historical year, ensure that the most recent and updated versions of the data tracking spreadsheets are being used, and ensure that proper units are reported, and review any kind of assumptions that you are making. And do not report data that is not accurate, and do not report estimated data if it is not supported by verifiable and reasonably accurate estimations. Coming to how this will be verified, all the verifiers are expected to review aspects of the facility's energy tracking program that could produce inaccuracies, which could include your initial data collection processes, your data sources, whatever are the tools, perhaps it is spreadsheets that you have. If it is from the spreadsheets, then it is a calculations, etc., which will be checked when the verification is happening. Again, if there are any inconsistencies or errors which are being noted, this has to be corrected on the platform. The next is question number 2, which is in level 2, which is, has your facility set a baseline for energy use? And here you can see the example of how you would be able to report on the baseline that you have selected. You might have different sources. For example, in this particular screenshot, we have said that the facility has natural gas, diesel, and electricity. They have set a baseline basically for electricity usage, but perhaps not for the others. So this is how you would require to report it. You would require to understand whether the baseline is absolute or normalized. What is the baseline quantity? What is the unit of measure? Enter the baseline year, whichever you are choosing. Ideally, choose a year which has a representative of a normal production for that entire year. So in that consideration, if you're looking at 2020, that was a year where there were a lot of lockdowns. That might not be the most appropriate year which you should choose as your baseline year. You should choose a year where right from Jan to December, there have been a uniform or a depictive indication of whatever is the energy that has been used. And how was your baseline calculated is the next question, which is there. And here you will have to report on whether you have normalized it with regard to the production that you have done. And again, you also need to report whether the baseline is verified. Here it's again a yes or a no. So if it has been verified previously, then you can report it as a yes. If not, it should be a no. And here we give you an example of a normalized baseline. So this is again 100,000 kilowatt hour which has been used. And if you have 500,000 garments that has been shipped in that particular year, then your normalized baseline electricity usage will then be 2 kilowatt hour per garment. So this is how you will calculate the normalization. The third question is on energy intensive processes and operations. Does your facility know which facility processes or operations use the most energy? Let me just go back here. So the intent of this question basically is to understand and evaluate the entire energy use within the facility. So you should be able to with this disclosure, you should be able to understand which processes, like for example, if you have CPB within your organization, if you have bleaching, if you have dyeing, if you have printing, etc., you are able to then analyze and understand which of the processes that are happening within the facility is consuming the maximum energy. And this will help you to set the targets for whatever are the energy reductions that are required. So the first step would be to map out all of your production processes together with the machinery list, the energy use parameters, and the energy usage data. And then you might wish to evaluate if you want to possibly have more meters that are installed so that you get better data insight into how the energy is being utilized within the different departments, within the different processes as well. Your question number 4 is your target setting question, which is, has your facility set targets for improving energy use? So if you say a yes, you can select all sources of energy for which your facility has set an energy reduction target. And this is an example of how you would require to report it. You would require to indicate what is the target that you have set for this particular source. What is your target for change in the energy use from the source? Here you will require to have, if you are entering, if you are targeting a reduction, please enter a negative value in percentage. And if you are indicating maybe an increase, perhaps it is a purchased renewable that you are taking and reporting, and you want to say that you're going to be increasing your purchased renewable, then you can put in a positive value and say that there is an increase in the target. And here you would require to also mention what is the target year. Is this normalized or absolute target that you have taken? And describe also the measures planned to achieve this target. So this is your question number 4 on energy targets. And all of your formal targets should include you should base the target on a formal evaluation of all of the improvement opportunities and actions that you have identified. What is the exact target quantity, whether it is absolute or normalized? You would require to have the start date, the end date, the measurement units, and you should ensure that the target is relevant to reducing the site's major energy use. And some of the do's and don'ts that we would like to reiterate. Review the target to ensure that all aspects are covered. Enter the targeted reduction or improvement as a percentage. Select the appropriate target type in the FEM, that is whether it is normalized or whether it is absolute. Provide also sufficient detail on how the target will be met in the field where they are asking you. Describe the measures planned to achieve this target. Perhaps you have plans on installing a solar on-site. Solar power plant on site, with the help of which you're going to be able to reduce the energy consumption. So that is what you would require to mention there. And some of the do nots that we have to be mindful of: do not report a target which is not accurate. Do not report data that is from a source which is unknown, which has not been verified. Do not report a target that's based on insufficient data again. And again, an estimated target, if it is not supported by verifiable and accurate estimation methodology, that is, if you do not have a correct methodology with which you are going to be estimating it, you should not be ideally reporting that. There is also an ancillary question on GHG targets, which is, has your facility set targets for reducing your facility's overall GHG emissions? And this is how the question is will require to be answered. You will have to choose the base year. Let us say you are reporting your GHG emissions, or you are maintaining your GHG emissions. This could also again be calculated emissions. This could also be emissions that you are noting down from the FEM module. So on the module, you can see in your Higg FEM module as to what are the GHG emissions for a particular year. So you could be tracking them through the module, or you could be tracking them also through your own calculations. You would require to here enter the base year. What is the target for reducing your overall facilities GHG emissions? What's the unit of measure? Enter in the target year. Again, you will have to report whether it is normalized or absolute, and also describe measures by which you would be achieving this target. And next we have the question on the implementation plan, which is, has your facility got an implementation plan to improve energy use or GHG emissions? So this is an example that we have indicated. So here you would require to upload a copy of the implementation plan that you have. And this basically demonstrate that you as a facility are taking action to achieve your targeted reductions. You can also say a partial yes if you do not have a plan in place, but if you have a plan in place, but you have not started on all of the actions that are required for this particular plan, then you have an option of saying a partial yes to this question. So ideally, the intent of this question is to maintain an action plan that supports you with any type of target setting, which is an important step in managing your energy use. And this is an example which we have provided of how you would be able to take up an action plan. What is a template that you would be able to use? You would require to indicate what is the action plan, what is the section. So it is a similar kind of an action plan that you would be able to use also for water and waste. So here you can have which is a section which you plan to improve. What is the description? What are some of the findings? And how are you going to be reporting it is also something that you will require to have in your action plan. And question number 6 is on demonstrated improvements. Here the question is, has your facility improved your energy consumption compared with its baseline? If yes, select all sources of energy that has been improved. And so here, taking action to reduce your impacts on site is the primary important goal for this assessment. So here, this question is basically dedicated to whatever is the goal that you have taken as a facility. So it is suggested here to upload all of your energy tracking reports showing that the reduction has been made from the last calendar year. So it is from, for example, you will right now be reporting on 2022 data, and then you would require to indicate that you have made an improvement from the data that you already have of 2021. So it's from the last calendar year's data that you will have to show your improvement. And you will achieve full points if your reductions have been made in the last calendar year, and that make up to 80% or more of your total energy use. And you will receive partial points here for energy data if you are reporting 50 to 79% of all of your energy. You are able to reduce it for 50 to 79%, you will receive partial points. So here again, we will request to see all of the items, how they have been calculated. You would require to show the reports in an Excel table. What is the quantity with the indication and the unit of measure? And also you would require to track what is the percentage change that you have made for each of the sources. So here, for example, in this facility, there is coal commercial mix, there is diesel, there is petrol, and there is electricity. So for each of these, you can say whether you have made an improvement or not. So you would require to report those parameters where you have made a improvement. And there is one more question. Suppose I'm going to fill the assessment in 2023, then my baseline year will be 2022 or 2021, and the target would be 2024, or we can keep it as 2026 if I say. So this is up to you as to which is the year that you would like to take as your baseline year. Your baseline year should ideally be a good working year, which is representative of all of the activities that are taking place. Suppose you have new machinery which has come in, which takes up more energy in a particular year, but you have already taken 2021 as a baseline year. Perhaps you might want to change it to 2022. But if your 2021 and 2022 there are no much differences, then you might not want to change your baseline year. So that is up to the facility to decide whether they want to change the baseline year or not. The target year again is also something that you can decide on. If you want to keep your target as 2026, that is also fine. It is your decision as to what is the target setting that you would want to make. Or you can also take the next year if you're taking smaller differences in the year. Let's take you are setting your targets for 2024. You will then be able to see as to what are the improvements that you have made and what are the changes that you will want to make. The essential part of this is that it should be a living document where you are able to say that you are making those changes as and when required. And some of the do's and don'ts again for the energy data, that where you're showing demonstrated improvements. You would require to review all of the improvement data to ensure that all aspects are covered and that all of the information that you are putting in is accurate. Enter the improvement quantity either as an absolute or as a normalized value. And this is the year-on-year again change that you would require to make. And please do remember to enter a negative figure for a reduction and a positive figure for an increase. And select appropriate units. Input percentage change in the use. Excuse me, this should be energy use from the source. And make sure to enter a negative percentage for a reduction. Describe the strategies that you have used in the appropriate field. So you have a section which is talking about describe the strategies used to achieve this improvement. And here you would require to say what you have done. And coming to demonstrated improvements, you should not report improvements that are not accurate. Do not report improvements that were not achieved in the FEM reporting year. So if you are reporting year right now, let's say you are working for 2022 data, if they have not been achieved in that 2022 calendar year, then please do not report them. Do not report an improvement that's absolute and relates to a decrease in production or related facility operations. And that's why data normalization is extremely important. And also, if you have insufficient data, you should not be reporting that either. And coming to how will it be verified? All the supporting evidences should be shown to whoever is coming to verify the particular module. What are some of the implemented changes that have actually happened to achieve the improvements will be checked. And if there are corrections that have to be made, then this will be made when the verifier is on site. Also, I would like to mention that you would have to give you would have to, when you are reporting on in question 6, when you are reporting on the demonstrated improvements, even if you have selected a baseline year as, let us say you have selected your baseline year as 2020, and you see that there is an improvement in from 2020 to 2022, there is an improvement. But here in the platform, you will be able to give an improvement only when it is from the previous calendar year. So please be mindful of that particular fact when we are reporting for question number 6. That it should be from the previous calendar year. It should, even if your baseline year is a different year, you should still be incorporating the improvement that has happened from your previous calendar year, that is from 2021. And here we have the question on scope 3 emissions, which is question number 7. Now we have come to level 3. And here I would like to mention that there are 2 questions in level 3. At the moment in the energy section, both the questions are not scored, but they will definitely be considered for scoring in the future cadences. So when we are talking about scope 3 emissions, the question is, were your facility's annual scope 3 emissions calculated during the reporting year? You can say a yes to this if you are calculating your scope 3 emissions and reporting that. And scope 3 emissions are basically related to your transportation, the raw materials that you buy, all of the business travel that happens, your employee commuting. And here you see the 15 different categories for scope 3 emissions. In this picture here, you have both your upstream activities as well as you have your downstream activities. So all of that contribute to your scope 3 emissions, and you can start to report it. And here we again have provided you with how you would be able to tabulate all of your scope 3 emissions in order to start the reporting. And we often hear that companies wish to offset their GHG emissions. This is actually a great step to take, but we are of the opinion that there are many other vital steps that have to be taken before you begin with your offsetting. Here are some of the most logical steps to take with regard to reducing your energy consumption. Firstly, you would require to avoid, that is the most ideal way in which you would be able to offset. But if it cannot be avoided, try and reduce your scope 1 and scope 2 energy consumption. Use more renewable energy sources for your scope 1 and 2, and thus reduce your GHG emissions. Develop products that use less energy. Avoid or reduce your scope 3 emissions by avoiding those activities which are contributing to your GHG emissions, or it could also be by increasing your energy efficiency. Use more renewable energy sources for your scope 3. Let's say you have external buses which ply, which are not owned by you, but which are owned by a third-party contractor, and it is a scope 3 emissions. You can try and see if you can switch to electric vehicles there, because that will help you to change over the energy source. You can, and then the final one is where you will offset your emissions. So offsetting is basically the very last option that we will consider. And before offsetting your emissions, ideally, you should try and look at the hierarchy, the energy hierarchy, which we are indicating here. And this is the most ideal way in which you would be able to optimize your energy usage. And finally, on science-based targets, this is again an unscored question. Has your facility set a science-based target according to SBTi? So if no, is your facility preparing to set a science-based target? You would require to upload documentation to show that you have set a science-based target in the reporting year. And to be able to answer a yes to this question, your company's targets must align with the SBTi requirements, which includes your commitment to setting the science-based targets in line with SBTi. A formal commitment letter is required. Here you will have to also pay the applicable fees. So once you have done that, your company name will actually be seen on the SBTi site, and you can set your company's GHG targets and have it validated and approved by SBTi. Then you would be able to say a yes to this question. So these are the questions in the energy section, and open to any questions that you would want to answer. Okay, there's a question on how to validate scope 3 emission of renewable source. If you want to validate the scope 3 emission of a renewable source, you would require to, first of all, have some kind of due diligence that is done of what are, first of all, you would require to have your entire scope 3 lists. If you have renewable sources, let's say, you have a contractor who is I'm going back to the same example that I gave, where the contractor has changed from diesel vehicles to electric vehicles. And here you want to validate whether that switchover has been done or not. You would require to have the due diligence that is done from your facility end. I hope that answers your question there. Okay, let's go on, move on to the next. Thank you. Okay. Let's move on to the next part of it, which is the Higg FEM benchmarking. So the platform basically offers benchmarking for the FEM. It is a feature which will help you to understand where you stand as a facility with other facilities of a similar category. So this is for all of the assessments, the verified assessments that are made. And here you can see an example, and this is a link where we have provided, which will help you to understand a bit more about the facility benchmarking guide, which will help you to understand where you stand as a facility when you have completed your FEM, and when you have reported that on the platform. So again, like I said earlier, it is the 30th of April, which is the date when FEM platform takes all of the modules that have been posted there for its benchmarking exercise. So after that particular date, whenever you're posting a module, you will not be able to unpost that module. And basically, you will also be able to see as a facility where you stand with regards to other facilities of a similar category with this benchmarking. Okay, I now come to the section where we have some of our local verifiers and trainers. We have a wide coverage all over the world. We have presence in Bangladesh, Tunisia, in Indonesia, Turkey, China, Vietnam, also Romania, Pakistan. So these are some of the areas that we cover, and most of the countries we would definitely be able to help you with the verification. We kindly request you to come contact us for the same, and we will be able to provide you with an option which you can consider. And these are some of our upcoming webinars. This is the webinar in the series that is there. You have the water use, the wastewater, the air emissions, waste, and the chemical section, which are coming up shortly. And I request you to kindly register for the same. And I hope this information which we are providing you would help you with your self-assessments. And finally, just a bit about the team. This is our entire team here. And we request you to kindly contact us for any of your requirements. And we trust that this has been insightful, specifically for the energy and GHG section. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. And see you in the next webinar.